Thank you, Jamie. First of all, let me thank all of you who are present here this evening. And let me thank the Guyadines, Vashti Guyadine and her mom, for having us here this evening. When Vashti called me, I could have heard it in her voice, because Vashti also worked with me at the Ministry of Energy and was our technical advisor, one of our special advisors at the ministry. And one of the things hearing Shasta here this evening in this fence line community is amazing, that I am not sure, Shasta, if the board, members of the Petrotrin, or the government ever held consultations with the employees of Petrotrin. And if not, we should call today for a proper consultation with the employees of Petrotrin. Similarly, right here, listen to what Shasta was saying and understand the implications for this fence line community right here in Marabella. For years, this community, you supported this refinery. You heard them with their noise. You breathed in a lot of the toxins and the pollution. You suffered the hardships of that for years. And at no point in time did the company think it wise to come to this fence line community to talk to you. I mean, I know that the current government, the PNM administration, was here 2 nights ago at the community center. But I'm not sure if that was a consultation. Did they listen to the pleas and listen to the plight? Instead, all I see is that the OWTU was locked out. You know, my friends, this evening, we are all here not because we want to criticize anyone. I've made this point very clear, and I will start by saying, I am not here because I want to blame anyone. I don't feel that we need to look backwards. I believe we need to look forward. Because by looking forward, we'll be able to determine the best option for our country, the best option for our children, and for our grandchildren. This is not about who is to blame. This is not about if we want to fix a balance sheet so we could look good. And this is why this evening, I heard a couple comments made on Tuesday evening by the meeting held by the PNM administration, the government. And I want to say to the government here this evening that we have no problem supporting you as the government of Trinidad and Tobago in this decision if we are convinced that you have explored all possible options and you have chosen the best option in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the future of our nation. That's all we are. We are not here because we want to oppose you. In fact, as the Congress of the People, it is our philosophy that politics must take second place to the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Right. At all points in time, we have to put the nation's interest, the country's interest first. And if that means we have to support you as a government in going forward in terms of seeking the best possible option, we are prepared, we will stand with you, we will walk with you, and we will support you. But my friends, we are not convinced. We have asked a major decision like this, and you know, no disclosure. When I started this discussion from last week, I started by asking for the full disclosure of all studies and reports. We eventually got the Lashley report. And to my surprise, when you open the Lashley report, nowhere in the Lashley report does it recommend the closure of this refinery. So the next step for me, and I did this on Sunday, I asked for any other studies, any other reports that would have been used. And in particular, I asked for the full disclosure of the findings in the McKinsey report. I hear my friend Kurt saying that sometimes, you know, we may not be able to release all the information in the McKinsey report, etc. But I want to say this evening, Petrotrin is owned by the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Each and every one of you sitting here today, you are the ultimate shareholder in this company. And you deserve the right to know what is in that report and what were the facts and analyses used to support this decision. I have before me here, you know, we have a lot of mailbox, you know, stuff coming into everybody's mailbox. And I have here today a report by McKinsey and Company, and what was paid for it, 15th of December 2017, the invoice date, 15th of December 2017, $12,836,000 was paid to McKinsey. Subsequent to that, another McKinsey report, 18th of June 2018, the invoice date was 16th of May 2018, paid $15,154,537.50. So after we have added all of this, $27 million has gone out to McKinsey. I cannot understand how the people of Trinidad and Tobago and all the experts we have, and we have a lot of energy talent in this country. This country has produced some of the best in the petroleum business, best in the energy sector. And I cannot understand why that report cannot be released and be allowed for these experts to review and analyze. This evening I ask, is there any director on the board of Petrotrin who is not in agreement with the analysis or the option recommended by the McKinsey in the McKinsey report? I ask that question. I ask the question, which members of management, which technocrats in the Ministry of Energy reviewed the facts in this report and reviewed the analysis in this report? If so, tell us. Tell us. So don't come with all this cloak of shrouded secrecy to justify the non-disclosure, because this decision is way too important. And this, Mr. Espinay and members of the board, is not about just fixing a balance sheet. It is about fixing an economy of Trinidad and Tobago. Let us not create another economic crisis in this country. And this is what we have started doing. And you know, I have a serious problem when we start talking about all these figures, and you know, to go to Shasta's point. And one of the things I hear coming out on Tuesday evening is the issue of, you know, all these salaries and wages, and I'm tired of hearing about this average of $45,000 a month for every employee. I find it very difficult, and we know that not every employee, the impression that is being created is that every employee gets $45,000. Let us clear that. That is not correct. That is not correct. And this is all part of the propaganda to gain support for this decision throughout the nation. The citizens of Trinidad and Tobago must understand where this propaganda is going. So let us deal with some of the facts here this evening, because as you know, I don't like to put forward anything unless I base it on fact. What are the issues? I heard the Minister of Energy, Mr. Franklin Khan, talking about a modernized exploration and production company. This is the savior for Petrotrin. Close the refining and marketing operation, the refinery next door to you, and let's go in to an exploration and production company, a modernized one. But you see, I want to ask the question, first of all, we have been speaking, and this is no news, and many of you here And one of the things I want to say, I want to congratulate citizens, because as we have moved around this country, many of you passionate about this industry, you know the facts. You have the knowledge. So don't think that you could come and hoodwink every citizen. You may be able to hoodwink some citizens, but not all. And this is why I call you to stand up in this struggle. Haven't you heard for years what it will take for us to modernize the exploration and production thrust of the Petrotrin? How many times you've heard the term aging infrastructure, asset integrity, the need to invest in modern pipelines, modern infrastructure, the need to invest in secondary recovery. And even if you do secondary recovery techniques, that will not yield the kind, it's only marginal increases we'll get in production. That will not even compensate for the natural decline to 8, which is about 8 to 10%. We know we need heavy capital investments in order to boost production and in order to boost our exploration drive in Petrotrin. And my friends, that capital investment is no little bit of money. And in fact, on Tuesday night, I got this in my mailbox as well, on Tuesday. And it appears, I blow it up, I had to ask my colleagues here to help me keep expanding and expanding it until we could see the figures. And one of them was, we are talking about this E&P operations. And the figure quoted for an investment into E&P operations is 8 billion TT dollars. Where is this 8 billion TT dollars coming from? It's coming from closing down the refinery. By closing the refinery tomorrow morning, you get $8 billion to invest in E&P. Let's not hoodwink the citizens of this country. We know it's either the government or the board of Petrotrin intends to go back out on the market and borrow $8 billion to finance this modernization of the exploration and production, or you are going to invite probably an investor, an equity partner. And we are not opposed to that. That has been discussed several times. Bringing an equity partner who will bring financing, who will bring technology. And I heard Minister Khan saying that it needs technology, it needs management skills. We know all of that. But no one is opposed to that. What we are opposed to is the closure of the refining and marketing division. Closure of the refinery, if you close it tomorrow morning, $8 billion is not going to turn up somewhere to fund exploration and production. Then we hear from this slide, we see from this slide, $2 billion to exit out of the refinery. And you know, I thought I would have heard Minister Khan deal with these figures on Tuesday night, but they didn't tell us anything about these figures. So where are you getting $2 billion? You close the refinery tomorrow morning and $2 billion also appear somewhere to be able to fund the exit. But let's go on. So we talk about this $8 billion that we need to invest in the upstream. But even as we do so, any of that modernized exploration and production, if we start tomorrow morning investing $8 billion, is that going to make the debt go away? Is that going to help us to start paying for the debt? Right now, we are talking about all our short-term and long-term debt obligations, financing, interest payments, payments towards capital. Are we saying that this modernized exploration and production facility, new company, is going to start taking up those debt obligations? Do you realize that even if you start investing tomorrow morning in exploration and production, the time it takes for you to see even the benefits from that investment might be 10 to 15 years? So you are not going to be deriving any great significant revenue from exploration and production in any time in the near future. So who is picking up this debt obligation that we are talking about? So if this is the case, and let me now turn to the refining and marketing part of the business, because this is where it seems, you know, that we have suddenly find a solution to the problems of Petrotrin. Close the refinery. And I asked the question, did the McKinsey report indicate that this modernized exploration and production company will start taking up the financing cost that we have right now in terms of the $850 million bond, the bullet payment for which is due next year, and the $750 million bond, which is currently being serviced and will come to an end in 2022? I would like to know if the McKinsey report suggested or recommended or even indicated that this was possible. But let us go to the refining and marketing operations, because at the end of the day, we have to understand, and before I go there, let's just talk a little bit about this financing cost. Because, you know, Minister Khan said, you know, what did we do? What did we do? Let me start by saying, and I say again this evening, that I wish that the media houses will stop showing pictures of the refinery with old tankage and old pipelines to give the impression, and I heard it used on their platform on Tuesday night, it's like a car that's breaking down every morning. Listen, you have $850 million in a bond. We have been servicing the interest payments on that. When I say we, Petrotrin, you have a $750 million bond, and that is being serviced right now by the refinery, by the refining and marketing operations of this company. But at no point in time, and if you ask me, because they said, well, what did you do? Yes, when I came in as Minister of Energy, we met with the management of Petrotrin, and we determined that there were a number of the plants which were funded by these loans that were coming on stream. I've indicated that we have a relatively modern refinery because we have a new CCR complex, we have a new isomerization complex, we have an acid alky plant, we have an upgraded cat cracker. The last one to come on stream is the ultra-low sulfur diesel plant. And all of these have off-site facilities to go with it, newly constructed. So to give the impression that we are dealing with a refinery that is 101 years old, and probably all the equipment in it below is 100 years old, is untrue. It's untrue. What has happened, and all of this equipment, most of this investment has taken place within the last 10 years. And on coming into office, we said that all the product streams coming off of these new plants, the revenue streams coming out of these new plants, we will use those revenue streams. 50% of it will be used to pay direct costs of the plants, and the other 50% will be put aside in something called like a sinking fund. Because we are already paying the interest on the two bonds, we are already paying the repaying part of the capital on the 750. But since in 2010, we knew we had a bullet payment of $850 million coming up in August of 2019. And we said, what is the company doing about preparing and planning for this? Therefore, 50% of these revenue streams out of these new plants will go towards a sinking fund. And even if it was not enough to cover the full $150 million, it will cover most of it. And whatever is remaining can be refinanced. That discussion took place in 2010. I cannot understand the government of Trinidad and Tobago standing up before the citizens of this country, including the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Energy, and the Prime Minister, to give the impression, oh my God, we have $850 million to pay next year. What are we to do? That is further from the truth. And in fact, by this public announcement of the closure of the refinery, the bonds have dipped according to Latin finance. The investors have started to query whether they will pay or there will be a default. So in fact, you have made your position worse when you knew you were going to refinance that bond, that bullet payment next year. And the very same investors that you were going to ask to come forward and refinance, you are now saying to them, they are now scared, running scared, lacking confidence. So I could not understand the logic behind this announcement. Furthermore, I am sure the trustee, I understand it's Deutsche Bank, the trustee would have called by now after hearing that announcement and seeing the reaction in the financial markets and asked the government or the board, what are you doing about this 850 million? In fact, it has been said the bonds may have been called on already. That particular bullet payment, they may have called on it already. And I am sure somebody, whether it's the government, through the Minister of Finance or the board of Petrotrin, they have already given assurances as to how that bullet payment will be made come next year. So citizens understand. It is not that if we close the refinery tomorrow morning, that $850 million is going to turn up somewhere for us to repay this loan. And I am sure that the government has already given assurances where this is concerned. But having said that, let us look a bit at what the refining margins look like. Because, I listened and I was surprised to hear the Minister of Energy telling us all what comes off at the top, talks about the royalties, and then he gets to the refinery and he quotes, I can't remember the exact figure, but he said what? We purchase foreign oil. We use our local crude oil. And we end up with a refining margin that is negative $2 and something cents. And I'm amazed because when you look at the 2017 figures, financial statements, there's a gross profit margin of $1 billion. So if you have a gross profit margin of $1 billion, how is it that you are telling the nation that your refining and operating margin for the refinery is negative? I then go to, and I just want to quote some figures. This is based on year-to-date, July 2018, okay? Refining margins. The refining margin, the margin that he said, he described and he explained to the people that night on Tuesday, right down the road there in the community center. He said that's the margin that you must have, the profit margin, in order to process the crude and convert it into refined products. And he said, you must have a positive refining margin. Well, let me tell you, the refinery margin is $9 to $10 a barrel, US dollars. $9 to $10 US. So I would ask the minister to take a look at the accounts just the same way we took a look at the accounts. Secondly, not saying that it doesn't go down negative, let's just see. Coming out of that $9 to $10 margin, there is an operating expense of $4.50. Operating expense. Then you have another dollar in what we call overhead expenses, which gives you a total of $5.50 in overheads. Some of you may have heard me saying that after the gross profit margin, we ended up with an operating expense that somehow takes up all of the gross profit margin. That's what it is here. So tonight I'm quoting in per barrel. So there's a $5.50 in operating expenses out of that $9 to $10 margin. And I am not saying, which leaves you now with $3.50 after taking out the operating expenses and taking out the overheads. You know what that part of that $3.50 is used for per barrel? Out of that, $2.40 is used to service our loans, both short-term and long-term loans. So to give the impression that Petrotrin has not been carrying their debt obligations, or they have not been servicing their loans, is totally untrue. $2.40 out of that refined margin is used to service the loans. And let's go back to what it is. It's to service the interest on the $750 million that will finish in 2022, and to service the interest payments on the $850 million, a bullet payment, the whole capital payment, which is due next year. So we have been servicing, as Petrotrin, our long term. What causes you to go into the negative is when you start taking depreciation, which is a cash flow issue. Depreciation of your plant, which is another $2.36. And then on that, retirees, benefits, pension. That is what is pushing it into negative. So let me start from the bottom. Retirees, benefits, medical. They're disappearing anywhere by closing the refinery tomorrow morning? They don't. Somebody still have to carry it. And I just told you, I don't think it's the exploration and production company carrying that cost at all. Negative depreciation, well, that will come off. But it's just a cash flow. It's not actually an expense or outflow of cash. Who is going to service the $2.40 per barrel of oil that this refinery was generating per barrel towards that loan, those loans? The exploration and production company. You know what will happen? The taxpayers is going to pick up this cost. Taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago, get ready. You are going to be picking up this financing cost when you shut down that refinery tomorrow morning. Right? Okay? That is what is happening here. So when you tell me about debt, and you're fooling the nation about debt and how much debt Petrotrin has, it doesn't go away. Not because the refinery closes, it means that you tell the bank, we're not paying you. You have to pay. Otherwise, the country will be downgraded. No country will do that. Petrotrin is a fully owned company by the government of Trinidad and Tobago and the taxpayers. So they're going to pick up this cost. Okay? So I said I will deal with that part of it in order to bring this. Then let's talk about this exploration and production, because I don't understand how we were able to get the cost. I listened to, Minister Franklin Khan and Minister Imbert, the Minister of Finance, telling us, listen, with no refinery, we could take our 40,000 barrels of oil and sell it. And I think he used the figure of $60 a barrel. And you know what? It converts into almost $5 billion or $4 billion immediately. Firstly, I am not even sure that they have done any studies on any of these issues in terms of how they're going to market this 40,000 barrels of oil. Do they have a market? First to begin, we use what we call naphthenic crude oil. That's what we produce, and that's what our refinery is able to process. You have to find a refinery, okay, that can process this crude. Secondly, you're not saying it's impossible. It's not impossible. You could find them. However, it will take time, and you have to build confidence. When you are going into market, you have to develop relationships. Then we suddenly got this announcement that Petrotrin is now about to start a characterization of our crude oil. No one is going to take this crude or buy this crude unless a characterization has been done. So if McKinsey focused on this E&P operations and the sale of these 40,000 barrels, how did they know what price this crude oil was going to fetch? What markets did they know they were going into when they have not even done a characterization of this oil? And that process has just started. And that's a complex process by itself. You have to go out in every field and take samples and send those samples abroad for testing. And then you have to develop what is called a projected production profile, because it's not to say we're picking up oil out of every field and put it somewhere and ship it. You know, it has to all blend into one, and you come up with a characterization. Based on the characterization, you now understand what is the nature of the crude that you're selling. In addition to that, you also have to do another analysis that will tell you what your yield curve would be like. What will this crude oil in the appropriate refinery, who takes it, what will it yield? These are the questions that investors would want answers to. So I can't understand how we arrived at this decision. And this particular analysis was never done. What did McKinsey base it on, if that is the case? Now, I am not saying that it cannot be done, yes, but it's not going to be overnight. And in addition to that, we have logistical issues. You're not going to get a ship coming in here every day to pick up 40,000 barrels of oil. You're going to have to accumulate, store, and almost as much as develop what we call a cargo size of almost 800,000 barrels, right? And then you're going to find that, so that might be, you're going to have to leave it to stand for a little while. You're looking at a shipment, every 4 to 6 weeks? Every 4 to 6 weeks. Have we worked out all these logistical issues before we start talking about shutting down the refinery tomorrow morning and we shipping crude oil all of a sudden? Where is it going? Which market? Which refinery? What price?
Who shipping company won't get the contract?
Thank you. Well, Tony, I hear you. Okay, Tony, I hear you. But you know, one of the things I heard with Mr. Imbert is that Minister of Finance and the foreign exchange flow. Let's deal with this foreign exchange, because you know, we suddenly sound like we're going to get all this foreign exchange coming into the country by just selling this crude oil. But we're selling 40,000 barrels of oil. Probably, he said he used a figure of $60, which is probably close to WTI, or probably less. You still have to discount that for various reasons. You have to take the quality of crude into consideration. Shipping, freight costs is not going to be the exact WTI figure that they've been using. Okay, so it's going to be lower. And that is why I said it will have to be at depressed prices. It's going to be below the WTI marker. But then what about the 25,000 barrels of oil of refined products that you have to import? What are we importing it at? If you listen to the Minister of Finance, you would gather, or you will feel that the 25,000 barrels of refined product coming in at $60 a barrel. No. Last analysis based on the ex-refinery, or probably even the Gulf Coast postings, is probably close to $90 a barrel, US dollars. And if we work the mathematics for it, you will not find, you may either be breaking even, so there's no net flow of foreign exchange coming into the country. And still, even if you sell it at $60, you still have foreign exchange component, what I would say foreign exchange expenses as components in that you still have to put out. So you could find, the country could find itself into a net user of foreign exchange because of this decision. The amount of foreign exchange you are collecting for the sale of this 40,000 barrels of oil per day is not enough to cover all your expenses in foreign exchange and to cover the cost of importation of 25,000 barrels of refined product. And this is what I cannot understand about the Minister of Finance, when they just throw figures out and give the impression that this is what is going to happen. Now, I am not saying at the end of the day that we cannot improve. It cannot be business as usual. But you know, a crisis like this presents so many opportunities. And this is what I thought they were doing all the time. A crisis had presented itself. We have a bullet payment coming up next year. What can we do to take the opportunity to restructure? Why couldn't we have brought the union and the workers to the table and discuss it and come up with a solution? Are we saying that the workers and the union are not willing to listen to solutions? If I listen to all of you here this evening, people like Shasta, aren't we not willing to give as well in this situation? It affects all of us. Why couldn't we? I am sure if we look at these refining margins, we could find a way to save. I'm almost certain, and I got this from some experts yesterday, and they were looking at, you see that operating expense of $4.50? It's almost possible that we are able to reduce that to $3.50 by improving efficiencies. And these are things that were identified. Many of these recommendations were identified in the actual report by Lashley, the Lashley Review Committee. And if we look at it, you will see that they talked about energy efficiency. They talked about cutting out overtime. They talked about removing the wastage and this heavy administrative burden that the company is carrying. You could have easily moved that $4.50 to $3.50, saving $1. Why couldn't we not move that overhead expense from $1 to 50 cents? In there alone, we would have ended up saving $1.50 for every barrel of oil refined in that refinery. Wouldn't that have allowed us to go a longer way to moving this situation forward? Couldn't we, in the short term, as an immediate plan, come together and say, how could we realize $1.50 saving on this refining margin per barrel of refined products? My friends in Trinidad and Tobago, we believe in the citizens of our country. You all are creative. You all are innovative. And in times like this, we can come together and we can find solutions. And I'm certain that we will be able to determine the way forward. But you see, going forward, because I don't want to go down the road of just, just complaining, and because they're giving this impression that all we are trying to do is complain. And I mean, I've dealt with this issue about wages. And when I listened to Minister Khan, and he said he got this report on his desk, and he see a carpenter, how much money the carpenter working for, and then he talks about, the refinery have no wood, and therefore what they need a carpenter for. Well, let me ask the question. If you suspect corruption, who's supposed to remove the corruption? The workers? The citizens? You are the minister. Why you didn't do something about it? Why you didn't call the management and the board to account for why this is happening? Call them to account. Why? And this is the problem I have. Everything I heard, all this overtime cost. If you hear the overtime bill, so management cannot take control of this company and institute new measures to remove this overtime cost. I do not buy the argument. At the end of the day, the workers do not run the company. The management runs the company. And we hear all the issues. Oh, everybody and successive administrations, how much they burden Petrotrin with everything possible. And I'm hearing they deprive the health centers and the education and the schools of money.
Sports too.
And sports, it's the other way around, eh? How many times have Petrotrin funded activities, social programs, sporting groups in this very same community? I know.
Political campaigns.
Right? Fence line communities are aware how much. Well, if you say political campaigns, right, and that's where the campaign finance reform comes in, okay? But why did that happen? And why can't we not use this opportunity to say, let us reverse it? Bring in the campaign finance reform So we don't have political administrations using Petrotrin as a political tool, creating this kind of situation here today. Don't take it out on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Because you know why? They have not done a socio-economic impact analysis. Look at right here in Marabella. That refinery closes tomorrow. You know this becomes a ghost town, right?
Yes.
Okay? Some of you sitting here, temporary and casual. I hear the minister quote some figure for you guys. Temporary and casual workers. What it is, I think $20,000 or something like that. He said, I don't want to be wrong, I may stand corrected.
$25,000.
$25,000.
$45,000.
$25,000. You know the temporary and casuals, and you know how this works. You are not working every day in the refinery. In most cases, you get 1 week out of 1 month, so that you can spread it across the communities. Everyone can get everybody can get an opportunity. So it's not to say, to give the impression that one casual worker getting $25,000 a month is inaccurate, is unfair, and it is propaganda to the highest order.
Somebody that asks him how much money paying or not.
Right? But let us move forward. Let's move forward. Because you know my other concern is I keep hearing about this. You know, the pension fund is well protected and so on, you know, but you know that we have this pension fund and it's well protected. But I have a serious problem when you're telling me, let's just start with some of the figures again with the pension plan. With this, where you separate almost 3,500 people from Petrotrin, permanent employees I'm talking about, I ain't reached casual, temporary service contractors or anybody yet. Out of that, 1,300 of those people, 1,300 people out of that are over 50 years of age. Okay? And therefore, they will become eligible for pension right away. And a lump sum payment has to be made. You know what's the estimated figure for that lump sum payment? $1 billion. $1 billion out of this pension plan. With this closure that we had, because it's not just the closure, remember, you're separating all the employees, everybody's going home, including employees upstream in the exploration and production, and you're starting up new businesses. And those new businesses, those employees are not going to be contributing to the pension plan. So you have a defined benefit, meaning I have to give out these benefits every month, but I have no new contributions coming into the plan. I asked the Minister of Finance and I'm asking the Board of Directors this evening, can they say that this pension plan is not at risk? Right? I am asking if this pension plan is at risk with this decision. And this is why I keep saying this has not been properly thought out. But let's go back to all the other people who are affected. I mean, we talk about 20,000 people on medical. 20,000 people on medical. And yet still, you know, I'm not saying that even in terms of Petrotrin and how they manage their medical, that it has not been done, you know, efficiently and with effective management. But I'm sure that we can find ways to improve on the management. There are many ideas. You could partner with someone that will help bring in new management practices to improve the efficiency of all their medical facilities, so that you could continue to offer medical to your 20,000 people. But you know, I hear nothing like that coming forward. So we're not saying that, you know, it is going to be business as usual. It is not. But going forward again, because one of the issues that we have raised is that the socio-economic impact analysis. Because, you know, I hear everybody talk about, you know, it's Petrotrin employees only. But when you start adding on casual and temporary, and, you know, we hear this VSEP, hefty packages everybody going home with, casual and temporary, Contract workers, you're entitled to any VSEP. You might get a little gratuity or some kind of little bonus to go home with. But you are getting any VSEP and any hefty package to go home. So please, Trinidad and Tobago, it is only the permanent employees who will be getting any hefty, it's what they call hefty VSEP packages to go home. Not everyone. All the contractors that service this refinery, when they have to close down, where are their employees going? They getting hefty packages to go home to? They getting VSEP to go home? No. What about all the spin-off industries? Are they getting VSEP when they have to shut down? My example is one of an insurance company who says to me, I am making plans to close my doors. Why? Because you know what? My business, all my clients are contractors who work for the refinery. I insure their assets. And if there are no contractors who have no assets operating, no trucks and so on operating, I have no insurance business. So we have not taken into consideration the spin-off ripple effect, the multiplier effect of this particular decision. The whole of South Trinidad will be affected, yes, but there is no North and South Trinidad in this business. Because when North Trinidad has to face, because I am not sure how long they are going to continue. The subsidy used to be carried by Petrotrin. No NPMC, National Petroleum, or Unipet carrying any subsidy. Let's take that out of the equation. So when there's nobody to owe, you have to pay right away. And when that refined product lands here, you have to pay the market price for it. You can't tell them, hey, I have to calculate the subsidy, and what will be the difference, and I'll pay you. You know, the shipper waiting for you. They're not waiting for you, the financier. They're not selling anymore after that, when you don't pay. So we have to make sure, and my concern is whether we will move to a deregulated market. Deregulated pricing. And not only that, with our own refinery here, we talked about fuel security. This nation had fuel security. We weren't dependent. We don't know who is the source of our refined products. We have no idea where that is going to come from. And anything happens in any of those countries, Trinidad and Tobago will be vulnerable where that is concerned. And then the second issue, LPG. Do we have any idea what it will take? Because right now, what the government is not saying, there is a subsidy on LPG. But the government does not pay that subsidy. Petrotrin produces that LPG at that fixed price to the market and does not ask for a cent towards the market price. They absorb that entire subsidy as their expense. I want to know, and this could be, that subsidy that Petrotrin absorbs is probably close to 100 million or possibly even 200 million. I don't know the figures. More than that. I'll wait on the McKinsey report to tell me if they did this analysis. What is the subsidy that the government of Trinidad, did they factor that into their budget come next month, this month, September? I hope they put that in. That they have to find an extra how many millions to take up the subsidy on LPG. And then the other issue, I am not sure they understand what it takes to shut down this refinery. And if it is that you are going to shut down this refinery, to decommission it, to remove all hydrocarbons, because this is what Shasta was saying. Yes, Shasta, you remember you and I were having a discussion about that. Because this is where fence line communities like this will be at risk. Because you can't, when you're shutting down, you have to make sure you are free. Every pipeline, all tank bottoms are cleared. Right? So what happens now, going forward, and in the decommissioning of a shutdown refinery? Do we have an idea what that is going to cost us? I am being told it could be close to $1 billion. Where are we getting that next $1 billion from? To decommission and to mothball this refinery.
You live in the refinery like Malcolm Jones building over the highway over there.
My friends,
Refinery end up like that.
as I come to a close, let me say that this decision to close this refinery is going to impact on every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. I want the people in Port of Spain to understand their businesses will not be the same. I want the people in the Chagaramas, in Diego Martin, Sandy Grande, Arima, Tobago, do not think that this is not going to impact on you. It is. And therefore, this is why, as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we must all join together as one and stop this decision. Let us turn back this decision. We know that we have to put forward alternatives. We know we have to put forward solutions. And I'm saying there is another alternative we can explore. Let us explore this alternative. So, government of Trinidad and Tobago, please, let us not go down this road. Let us not take a decision that we will regret. And you know what, let me just respond to Minister Khan, because you know he said it's politics at the end of the day. All our party as the COP, we don't get in our political philosophy, country reigns supreme. The country's interest over politics. But I know I hear him saying that, you know, the debate and whatever, you know, that he's not interested in any debate. You know, my interest in a public debate was that we could have had full disclosure on this issue. We have been talking to residents on the camp right here, and residents will tell you that there is someone already moving around the camp. Maybe I'm wrong, I'm getting wrong information. But Minister of Energy, Minister of Finance, members of the board of Petrotrin are their prospective buyers who have been doing inspection sites at golf courses and homes in the camp right now? I just asked the question. I just asked the question. This is why we need to be open and transparent. Now, the Prime Minister said he's putting these assets into a company and he's presenting it as an opportunity. We are not opposed to bringing in an equity partner for this business, you know. But if you're bringing in an equity partner, let it not be that you're selling off the assets at next to nothing and depriving the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago of the true value. If we are going to do that and bring in an equity partner, let us do it open, let us be open, transparent, and ensure that we do it in the best interest and that we select the best proposal at the end of the day, whether it is for the upstream, modernized exploration and production company, or whether it is for the refining and marketing assets of the company. But let's go to this debate.
Carolyn, challenge Rowley, Frankencan, and Imbud, you, and tell them I as one individual, I will challenge the children debate one time.
Suggestion that we challenge them to. But you see, my friends, the debate, the purpose of the debate is to give the technocrats an opportunity to go through the details of these recommendations, go through the analysis, verify the facts used. Because the decision, if you have flawed, if your facts are inaccurate and the analysis is flawed, then your decision is a flawed decision. And this is why I asked for that public debate. So, Minister Khan, I asked for that debate in the interest of being open and transparent and having full disclosure. But you know, you said that I should go and win a seat, all right? But last time I checked with the EBC, let me just say, let us just set I am saying this evening, select the venue, set the date and time, because the last time I checked with the EBC, COP has one seat in the parliament, and it's the constituency of St. Augustine. So we do have a seat, right? And like you, Minister Khan, right? So we have a seat. So come, let us select the venue, set the date, set the time for this this debate. Furthermore, okay, Jack, okay. Furthermore, yes, I don't have a seat, but Minister Khan does not have a seat either. You sit in the Senate. So don't ask me about being elected. You be elected as well into the parliament. So you don't have a seat, I don't have a seat. Let's go forward with the debate. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move forward as one, as a struggle to move this country forward. I thank you.